Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be talking a bit about Mario Kart World. Now, I recently picked the game up again. It's been a few months since I've played it, and I wanted to give it some time between when it came out, which was obviously last year in the summer, until now. And in the last 2 weeks I've been playing it and primarily just trying to see if one, if I was too harsh on the game when it came out, and two, the issues that I have, do they still persist? Now, this video is primarily going to focus on tracks in the game, because I think really when it comes to Mario Kart, it comes down to the tracks, the courses. Those are the things that you're racing on. They need to be memorable, they need to be strong, and I think this is where I land on the game. I do think the game is good. I think the game was good when it came out. It still has the fact that it's overpriced. I don't think there's any dodging that at the moment. And in terms of the game, still handles incredibly well, still plays incredibly well. There's a lot of things around the game that are really good. But one thing that I really wanted to look at was the tracks again. Now, I've taken out of this list all of the returning tracks. So we are just talking about the new tracks that got added in this game that are brand new to the game, because that's ultimately, like I said, that's the thing that makes you want to play a Mario Kart, is there's the tracks you race on. Like, people always remember things like Waluigi Pinball or Baby Park, or like some of the classic Rainbow Roads. There's always at least a couple from every game where everyone's like, yeah, those are the ones, And for me personally, I love a lot of the GameCube tracks. I love a lot of Mario Kart 8's tracks. Everyone has their favourites. Some of the classics SNES tracks that come back and what they do with those, and I love that, right? But then, for example, I won't appreciate or enjoy the N64 tracks. I find them a little bit boring or whatever. But everybody has one or two tracks from prior games that they love and they always want to see come back. Now, the tracks that came back in Mario Kart World, there were some really good ones here. Peach Beach had a really good makeover, so did Dino Jungle. Two phenomenal tracks. Koopa Troopa Beach was a lot of fun there coming back. We had the sort of remixed Mario Circuit tracks. Toad Factory came back. Airship Fortress. Some real iconic classics that I think a lot of people really liked. But we're not going to talk about that today. We are going to talk about the tracks, but we're primarily focusing on the new tracks. And the reason I want to do that is because I know that I did a tier list on this, but I went back and I'm trying to be as objective as possible in terms of how which tracks are memorable from this game, which ones maybe not so, and kind of go through them and that. Now, I've rated them sort of great, good, okay, and boring. We're going to start at the top, which I think are the best tracks, and work my way to the bottom, and I want to give reasons for each of these. And this is also in no order. So when I talk about the first category, which is the great tracks, I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying in this game, these are the best tracks, either in terms of theming or fun to drive on, things like that. It's kind of on that level. And I know this might go against my original tier list, but this is more to do with these tracks going forward. These are the ones you're going to want to see come back, or have them that most they're going to become the icons of the game. So we'll start things off with Boo Cinema. While I do think the track is a little bit short, I don't think it's it borderlines good and great for me. But the reason why I do like it is I think it has a really clever theme. I think for a ghost house, it's very different, jumping into the cinema, into the essentially into the projector and then back out, and the way you're on the reel, cinema reel and stuff. I think it is actually very memorable. I think it's one of the most memorable tracks in this game. I don't think it's such a unique idea. And I think that's what makes it incredibly fun to drive on. Even though I do think the track is just a little bit short. I love driving around in the theatre. I just kind of wish there was more to it, or more inside the world you jump in. But I do think this is one of those tracks that's going to be remembered going forward. The other great track, and in my opinion, the best track in the game in terms of new tracks, is DK Spaceport. This idea that you're going up these girders and each one's got some new obstacle to do. It's so well put together. Alright, it's a point-to-point track, not my favourite style, but I love the fact that it's a level that's designed to teach you how to do rail grinding, it's to teach you how to do wall riding, all these different things. It's chaotic as all hell. You've got 8 laps or 6 laps, whatever it is. You drive one way and you drive another way and you've got barrels coming at you and all different things. It's so well themed that nothing, in my opinion, comes close to just how well put together this track is. between the two, Boo Cinema and DK Spaceport, I do think you have very, very memorable tracks. These are two tracks that I think people will want to come back in the future in later Mario Kart games because they're just so strongly themed, really. That's kind of what makes them what I think of it is popular. Everyone that I've played the game with really, really likes DK Spaceport and Boo Cinema. They seem to be the ones that people are gelling with, right? Now we move on to the good tracks. Now all of these good tracks, I'm going with good because I think they are enjoyable tracks. I'm not necessarily a big fan of every single one of these, but when I look at them and I think about the races I've had, the sort of chaos that they create, things like that, I don't think they're as memorable as something like DK Spaceport or Boo Cinema, but I think they will be. Maybe in time I might change my mind on it, but these are the sort of tracks that will always be, people will always be like, oh yeah, that's a good track. I don't think it'll be like absolute banger, but I think it'll always be good. So we're starting with Acorn Heights. Acorn Heights is very similar to the other sort of autumnal tree levels in the past. I think the reason why this one's fun is that you have that whole flying section, you land on the leaves, you're bouncing down off of that, and then you run back up the tree with the acorn rolling down, and you've got multiple pathways. It's, again, not an overly complex level, but because you have multiple sort of ways to go in terms of you go back up the tree and there's like sort of 4 or 5 different tracks, plus you can like grind, and when you're coming down, you're flying down and bouncing off the leaves, and it's very fast, feels very frantic. I think it has a really nice theme, it looks really good. There's some really cool shortcuts. I think this track overall feels like one of the better sort of tree tracks. Like, I've forgotten what the Wii one was that everyone liked. Maple Treeway, I think it is. Has a similar vibe, that kind of feel. It feels fun to play on. I think it just lacks maybe something, which is why I wouldn't put it in the great, but I do think this is definitely one of the better ones in the game. Moving on, we've got Bowser's Castle. Again, these are not in any order, this is just listed as this is. Bowser's Castle, I've gone back and I've kind of maybe changed my tune slightly on it, because I like it, but I was never high on this one, because I was always like, oh, it just doesn't feel that tough. And difficulty is a big problem across the board on a lot of these tracks, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I went back and recently played it. I spent a lot of time playing on the new tracks, and I found with Bowser's Castle is that when you're doing the actual track, you've got those tight turns, you've got lava and things everywhere, you've got the crazy boost section when you go up in the clouds and you're zipping along and you're doing the flying part, and there's like fireballs coming in the sky and crashing down. I do think it's one of those ones that's actually pretty, like, it's pretty fun to play on. I think it's just that there are some previous Bowser's Castles, especially in Mario Kart 8, that one is nuts, and I think it just maybe lacks a little something, but I don't think it's bad by any means. I think it is a difficult enough track with enough of a gimmick going on to make it a toughie, and that speed boost at the end, some of the tight turns, it definitely has that Bowser's Castle attitude. The music's great as well. I just kind of wish, when you've got Bowser's Castle, it should be like the second hardest track in the game. You know, we're talking about one of the very last ones. Like, make it a bit more difficult. Moving on, we've got Cheep Cheep Falls. Cheep Cheep Falls is one of those ones where I think the second half of the track, so the first bit you drive up the steps, you go around a few bits, and then as soon as you hit the water section coming down, that's when this track really sort of comes alive. You have that whole water section when you come around to the right and goes around to the left, and there's like, you know, things to grind on. You're all in the water. Crazy stuff is happening. Again, another one of the ones where it's like, it's not the most complex track, but parts of it do lead to some fun interactions between you and the other racers, chucking things into the water, everyone's spinning around. Like, the water physics in this game feel incredibly fun to play on anyway, and that's throughout every level with water on it. Like, there's quite a few, and they all feel good to drive on. But I like that section of the track. I think that leads to a bit of a high skill ceiling with driving. If you nail it, it feels good to drive around the water section. There's a few shortcuts in there. It gets chaotic on that last bend as well, like blue shells coming in or bob-ombs and things like that. It can really like chop and change. I think again it just lacks maybe a bit more. I almost wish it was a little bit maybe twisty-turny on the water, maybe more rapids. It does have some of that. It's just maybe I was like, oh, I could do a bit more of it. But it's, you know, again, it's very consistent. The theming of it, the area of it, it looks really nice. It's a really, really fun level to play on. Then we come to Dry Bones Burnout, a level that I actually don't like that much personally. However, this level is more difficult, and it has those turns. when you're going into the beginning bit where you either go up or go down, and you've got all those different ways, there's multiple pathways, and then you fly across and there's multiple pathways again. I can't knock the fact that that level has multiple routes. Like, it leads to, depending on where you're going, you can do different things. You can wall jump, you can grind to go up, you can jump off there to go down. It has some tight turns. It has a lot of that difficulty that I'm talking about, and this kind of is one of those ones where I don't necessarily enjoy it that much, but I really appreciate the fact that this is maybe a level that people do gravitate towards, because it's got this whole like Day of the Dead sort of theme going on as well. I never really get much of a chance to like look at a lot of this level because I'm so concentrated on just driving on it, but I do think it's a lot of fun. It has challenge, and I think it reminds me of some of the other Dry Bones style levels. They usually have some kind of crazy multi-core sort of thing, and I think this nails that pretty well. Like I said, not one of my favourites, but definitely something that's fairly solid. I don't know how I would improve this one for me to like it. Maybe it's just the aesthetic that I don't like, but overall I think the difficulty and challenge is there. You then have Whistle Stop Summit. This is a level that's maybe on the easier side, but what I like about this track is it's got a really fun theme. You've got the train going around, you can grind on the rails, there's lots of flipping between the rail grinding. I think this is one of the more easier tracks for a reason. I think it's a great way to introduce people to the rail grinding and how the flipping onto them. Firing shells along rails is really cool, like the way the items work and interact there. Again, pretty simple, but the gimmick is focused on the rail grind. I like this track. I think this track is a lot of fun. I love the train aesthetic. I'd love more trains. I kind of like stuff when they use these big vehicles in the levels, and the fact that you can grind the rails and you can avoid stuff and flip out the way. I think it's one of those tracks that the better you get at it, the more sort of faster, and you find the optimal routes to get around, and you can jump up on the rails, jump off. I think I could be wrong, but maybe you can grind the wall ride the side of the train. I'm not sure on that one, but overall I like it I do like this one being sort of a more of an introduction level with focus on the rail grinding, and I think this one is another one that in theme people are going to really like it. Then we've got Great Question Block Ruins. This one's kind of grown on me. I think playing it like this track massively benefits from being 3 laps rather than during a Grand Prix. When you have 3 laps on this, there's so much to take in. There are multiple routes. The actual fact that it's a ruins looks amazing. It's up in the sky. I like the fact that this one is got some difficult turns, like the bit where you're bounding down and you can go up onto the left bits or go down. Very, very cool. Very much enjoy what this track offers in terms of something a bit different. You don't get many Sky Ruins levels, and I kind of appreciate that. And the last sort of one in the good selection of tracks is Rainbow Road. Now, Rainbow Road here is very awesome in terms of how it looks, how it sounds, how it plays. My biggest issue with Rainbow Road here is, and this might come across quite cocky or arrogant, and I think other people would agree, but this Rainbow Road is really easy in comparison to other Rainbow Roads. The track is very wide. Like, yes, it does go off. A lot of the time you get splits. You get a left and a right split. So half people go left, half people go right. There are no barriers for a good chunk of it, but the turns are like very long and wide. The cool bit where you kind of go into like the machinery area where it looks more like SNES Rainbow Road, and you've got the invincible thwomps, and there's like tight turns. That's by far the best part of the entire track. It's the hardest part. It really bums me out when we get Rainbow Road that are not that difficult. Like, Rainbow Road should be hard, and I think maybe that might just be my skill that I find that this is too easy. I say too easy, it's probably still harder. I mean, I struggle with Dry Bones Burnout more than I do Rainbow Road, just because there's like tighter turns and there's things that you mess up in that one and you're going off it. Like, yes, there's no barriers in Rainbow Road and good chunks of it, but the track, it just never feels like it should be. Those classic Rainbow Roads from both like the SNES, the Game Boy Advance game, even the GameCube one, that was always a toughie. You know, the Wii one's harder than this, even though that might feel a bit simpler. I would say N64, but that one's got barriers on it. There's a lot of these other Rainbow Roads are more difficult. Even Mario Kart 8's Rainbow Road is harder than this. That's got some tight turns in it. And I think that's where I'm kind of like, I can't put this track any lower, because it is, at the end of the day, Rainbow Road. It's a phenomenal track. However, it's also not that difficult, and that really, really messes up my thoughts and feelings on Rainbow Road. And that's across the board, actually. I think a lot of Mario Kart 8's tracks, they don't play out in a normal increasing in difficulty, and I think a lot of the problem is that some of these tracks just aren't that hard. the hard. Obviously, there's 24 races. That's what brings the challenge. So they want to make the tracks at least feel wide enough to deal with that. But they just aren't. They're not at the level where I'm like struggling, going, God, I really need to learn this. Like, that's the thing that I'm missing. It's like, I need to learn this tracks inside out, the shortcuts, all that sort of stuff. Instead, we get a beautiful Rainbow Road. We get a fun one to play on, but it is not on that level of like, yeah, this is top Rainbow Road. It's not. I think it won't be forgettable, but it won't be looked back on as like, oh, that's a difficult track. So, moving from there, we get the OK tracks. These are the tracks that I think like are good basic tracks, but I would not miss these going forward. First off is Mario Bros. Circuit, which as a beginner track is absolutely fine. It does enough in terms of rail grinding and all that. It's sort of a weird, it's not a figure of 8 level, but you have the big turn, you come back down from the big turn, and then you can jump off to the right, you can carry on the track. There's a few bits to it. So for a basic first level, it's not that bad. Actually, it's probably one of the better ones, but it's one of those ones where I'm just like, it's okay. I've played enough of these style of tracks to be like, hey, I kind of see how this is going. I like it thematically. I like driving around this in the free roam mode. I think it's very cool, looks great. But as a track, I don't think people are going to be like, oh yeah, this is the one. I don't even think the music's as popping as it needs to be for a first sort of circuit, which is a shame. But I think it's just one of those ones. Like, yes, it's a good beginner track. It's going to teach you a lot of lessons, but it's not nearly as memorable as I think as other previous like levels. And to be fair, a lot of the first track in pretty much all Mario Kart games are kind of basic. Then we come to Crown City. Crown City as a city is kind of cool, and there's a lot of stuff to do in it. But you get raced on in Crown City twice, and the first time is far more interesting than the second time. The first time you go up on the roofs when you do it in the Grand Prix, and the second time you're along the streets. If you do this race as like an actual race, then it's a point to point, and it's decent. But this is no, and it feels weird to say this. There are city tracks from Tour that feel more interesting than Crown City. I know that obviously this takes a lot of the vibes from those tracks, but like I prefer to play something like Sydney Sprint, or maybe like Berlin Byways, London Loop. Like there's certain tracks that just have a bit more going on. And this one, obviously got the vehicles and stuff, and when you do go onto the roof section, that bit is cool. Like I do like that, but the rest of it feels very like okay. And because I think a lot of this game has those driving sections between tracks, that's kind of where the issue rolls in. It's like it doesn't feel different enough from that. There are just other city tracks, Mushroom Bridge, Mushroom City, the Star one, the one that was in the Mario Kart Wii. Like they feel a bit more hectic, but then you don't have those driving sections, right? So I think maybe it's a bit harsh, but it's very okay. It's very very average track. Faraway Oasis is a track that I really enjoy the look of, and I enjoy what they're going for. It's just not as complex, that track, as I think it needs to be. Like it's, you come to the track, you end up driving around, you go up the top, you come down, there's a water section that you go around, and like there's other bits, but it doesn't. I almost wish the animals were more involved. Kind of like how Dino Jungle has the dinosaurs. I wish more of the animals were involved in the level. I kind of like it, but I can't say that this is something that I don't know if it will ever come back and be. It needs more going on with it, and I think having either some animals on the track, or having some sort of like animals in the way, like as the final section, or something just to add a bit more of why this track's cool. When you're driving to it, you have to avoid zebras and other animals. When you're driving away from it, like ostriches, like add that to the track. And then lastly, out of all of these, Salty Speedway. Again, love the look of it. It's such a basic track. You come through the water, you go on land, you go up and around, you do a couple of things, you're back in the water, zoom, zoom, and back at the start. It's just, there's not a lot to it. And I just think it's one of those ones where, again, there are just other water tracks in this game that are just better, more interesting. Like, I think maybe doing some, like, if you're going to do lots of water stuff, have more jumps in there, maybe do something to make it at least feel like there's more going on, even if it isn't, if there's not that much different. I do love the water driving, but there's just, if you look at like what other tracks you've got, like Peach Beach, Cheap Fools is more fun, Warriors Galleon, like, there's other ones that just use those water mechanics, and I just find them more fun to drive around on, really. And that brings me to the last three, and if you know the tracks well, you know what's coming up. But we've got to start with Dandelion Depths. This, to me, is by far the most boring track in the entire game. I never want to see this track come back because, again, right, you start at the top, you roll the way down, you go into some water, you come back up a hill. There's no obstacles. There's nothing here that's particularly challenging about this level. And it's just not it doesn't look incredible. Like, all the other levels look pretty decent. I get it when you go underground, you see the dandelions flying there, but there's nothing to this level. It's so boring, like, out of all the new ones. So, like, it does nothing for me. We have then our Peach Stadium, which, if you do the first time you come to it in the Grand Prix, it's not even like you just drive around it. And then when you actually do the track, like, Peach Stadium could have been the first track in the game. You know, they use Mario Bros. Circuit, and Peach Stadium is maybe a little bit more difficult, but Peach Stadium is just like it goes for a vibe of like those classic tracks with the pipes on and stuff. But there's just nothing. I don't know. It's one of those ones I can't put my finger on why. I don't think, but I think it's you either have Peach Stadium or Mario Bros. Circuit. You don't need both. I think I'd take Mario Bros. Circuit because it's a bit more of its own sort of off-roady type theme. Peach Stadium could have been so much more. They could have done some crazy things with it, but it's so uninspired as a track. You go up one side, you come around the other, you go down, avoid a few pipes, and you're back at it. It's not that interesting. And the last of the three of the ones I consider boring is Starview Peak. Beautiful level, but it's literally like take a big turn, all the tracks super wide, then you get in some water, you shoot through some stars, and you're back at the beginning. And it just feels like one of those ones that's like, oh, if you're gonna do this, like, I don't know, put some obstacles down, have some tighter turns. If you're going for a similar to Rainbow Road aesthetic, you could do kind of some crazy stuff with it. That's all of the tracks that are new to the game, and this is where I think the biggest problem Mario Kart World runs into is that even though I think Boo Cinema and DK Spaceport are like the absolute pinnacle in terms of like the originality of those levels and like how they can stand out, Boo Cinema's too short. DK Spaceport is probably the only true level where I'm like, this is actually fantastic. Everything else, I enjoy it. Well, except for the Dandelion Depths, Peach Stadium, and Starview Peak. Everything else I enjoy playing on, but I don't know how I'm going to feel about these levels in the future. Like I said, if we look at the tracks that have come back, you know, we've got things like Dino Jungle. That got such a glow up. We've got this track that allows you to ride on the dinosaurs, you can grind, you can wall jump, you do all kinds of crazy stuff. That one got an amazing glow up. That track is a ton of fun and bonkers as well. You look at Peach Beach, alright, each lap changes, but oh my god, they added so much to what was, what was not a simple track, but was not one of the more difficult ones. The second lap of you shooting up through the buildings and there's tons, it's like, why did suddenly all of the older tracks get all this love? You know, okay, Desert Hills, Shy Guy Bazaar, maybe not the best picks from the older tracks, but people, like, you know, the theming of Desert Hills maybe pretty unmemorable. Shy Guy Bazaar at least has a different theme, and it's very unique. Then you got Airship Fortress, which is a classic. I don't know why in this game it doesn't feel as good, but it's one of those ones that really benefits from free laps. It's quite a short track, but it looks cool, you know, with the cannons firing the bullet bills, stuff like that. Wario Stadium from N64, amazing version of it, right? It looks like a lot of the older tracks, and Mario Circuit, so not Mario Bros. Circuit, but the actual Mario Circuit that takes 3 of the original SNES levels, combines into one. All these older tracks feel like they are more memorable and had more love to them than a lot of these ones. Even Sky High Sunday, a level that I absolutely hated in Mario Kart 8, which I thought was awful, this version of it, way better. Way better track. I think it's because they backported it. DK Pass, really, really good. Wario's Galleon, like, really cool use of the water mechanics. So for me, it's like, Mario Kart is about the tracks, right? And if you look back at Mario Kart 8, there's probably a bunch there that were brand new that you could pull out. The F-Zero tracks, the Excitebike tracks, you know, Super Bell, Subway. Like, there was a ton of ones that got added in later on. There's a ton of the bass tracks and things like that were genuinely really, really cool. And in this game, I feel like 2 of the new tracks are the ones that I want to see continually get supported and updated going on. But for everything else, it's like, how memorable a lot of these going to be. Maybe the nostalgia's not there yet. Maybe I need to play this game a lot, and then whenever the next Mario Kart game comes along in like 10 years time or whatever, maybe I'll be like, oh awesome, they brought this back. But as it stands, a lot of these tracks right now, they're not on the level they need to be. And I am speaking from a very a subjective point. I completely understand that a lot of people may disagree and go, actually no, there's a lot of tracks here that I really, really like. This is going to be some people's first Mario Kart. They're going to enjoy the selection. But as someone who's played the games from the very beginning, you know, there's just certain themes and looks of tracks, and I guess they've had the advantage of time. Like, I absolutely love SNES Rainbow Road because it is pure difficulty in terms of there are no barriers, there are invincible thwomps. Alright, that track, and it's got square corners everywhere. That track maybe now doesn't seem as difficult, especially the Mario Kart 8 version and the 3DS version. And some people are going to look at that and go, it's not that great. And that's fine. Like, I completely understand that. But with that track, it has a vibe that no other track has. Every Rainbow Road is very different. And I think that's something that may be missing from something. That's why DK Spaceport feels so unique. You're like going up the girders and there's like traps. Like, it's obstacles everywhere. And I'm like, why haven't more levels got this? Same with Boo Cinema. You jump through an old-timey screen. You're on the reels. You're in a cinema. Like, these are places that you don't normally get. When you get something like Acorn Heights, which is like an autumnal forest, we've had that before. Same with Bowser's Castle. You know, like Great Block Ruins. You know what's so cool about that? It's a Sky Ruins. I don't think we've had that before. We've had other Sky Tracks and stuff like that, but like not having something like that. And that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, you know what? These levels that have these unique designs are kind of what really makes them. But these are just my thoughts. Like, I do like Mario Kart World. I am looking forward to them adding something to this game at some point. Probably we'll get an announcement in June or July when like the first year of the Switch. But Mario Kart World desperately needs some love in terms of track selection, because I think the track selection is good. I don't think it's particularly great, unfortunately. Anyway, that's my ramblings on this. Thank you very much for watching the video. As always, if you like the video, hit the like button. Helps out a ton. If you want to see more content on Mario Kart World and other Switch 2 games, stick around, hit subscribe. And until next video, I will see you then.